So yes, it's a new day, so we've got some more Diablo 4 updates, including new dev responses about the Occultist and future changes in seasons. A new patch just disabled some crucial aspects, which means the weapon you might be using right now could actually be worthless, and potential new improvements coming to the PvP shop and Necromancer, and yes, some excellent tips on getting through those pesky slay all enemies type dungeons. Plus, this one adjustment could kill the game. We've got to talk about it. Let's hope it doesn't happen. An important Diablo 3 feature needs to make it into Diablo 4. Here's why. But yeah, let's get straight into the official stuff because, yeah, some aspects were actually disabled. I kid you not. So check it out. It says this: Edgemaster's aspect and aspect of Berserk ripping temporarily disabled. We have this official post here from Blizzard saying we have temporarily disabled Edgemaster's aspect and aspect of Berserk ripping from the game while the team works to resolve some issues with these specific effects. Items that currently use these effects will still be usable, but will no longer proc until they have been re-enabled. We will update the community once we release the hold on these legendary aspects. Now, I've been looking out for you guys to see if they've released it, and if they've updated, released their hold on the aspects, I guess you would say. But yeah, nothing yet. So that's a bummer. It seems just like the Barbarian is just getting so unlucky so far in so many ways. I'm still enjoying the Barbarian because I myself, I like the challenge of the Barbarian. I've been having a ton of fun with it. But anyway, let's continue onward, shall we? Let's head on over to Twitter. Liquid Mendo says this: why disable it when people are actively playing the game and also still participating in the race? Why not just wait for when you have a fix ready and then send a patch as the race is over? It feels really, really bad waking up every day to another part of the game gone. This is an excellent point. Remember, the hardcore race to level 100 is still going on. There's still a lot of spots left on that Lilith statue. But we have a response here from Adam Fletcher of Blizzard, who says this: because there is an exploitable bug that players can use, and we would prefer no one do that while we address it. So yeah, this is the case of the few hurting the many, I suppose you would say. It's a bummer that some of these exploits really can impact the community in such a way. Now, we do have a reply here as well. It says this: I understand, just hoping that these fixes now will prevent such things during Season 1. And Adam Fletcher does confirm that's the plan. So this is a prep for Season 1, which again, that's why I have stated over and over that this hardcore race to level 100 type challenge should have been held off until Season 1. Should have been held off until all this stuff was ironed out. That's just my opinion. All right, so we got a good question here about the Occultist, and it looks like it's going to be adjusted in the future. So this can't be intentional on alt characters, can it? My main has completed damn near every dungeon because the codexes are already learned. Beating them on my alt does nothing. So I have to wait till 25 to use the Occultist. And if we scroll down here, the response is this right here from Rod Ferguson. But we have a reply here from Sugar Princess Fluff, who says, so weird that requirement even exists since you can start getting aspects at level 1. And Rod Ferguson says, yeah, we're aware this is not ideal, likely addressed in a future season. If you have a dungeon not completed for the first time, I think that might unlock them. So yes, that's also true. The more you know. But yeah, it looks like they're going to be adjusting how you actually access the Occultist in the game going forward. Perhaps introduced, I would say, Season 2, because remember, again, they said that it takes time to do any adjustments with seasons. Season 1 right now is in heavy development. They're so far along, so any updates would most likely come to Season 2. At least that's kind of the theory according to Blizzard's previous statements when it comes to like major changes and stuff like that. Now, let's get into more questions, shall we? Drew says this: would it be possible to add a preview option for the horse and player cosmetics at the PvP shops? It's kind of hard to tell what they would look like in the little thumbnails. That's a great point. Adam Fletcher says, we'll make note to the team that handles these. Yeah, they need more feedback with what the player is actually going to be purchasing at the PvP shop. I totally agree on that one. Now, what about the Necromancer? So check it out. It says right here, I really like my Necromancer, but I'd also like to see what I'm doing. Would it be possible to do something about this shadow pool effect from Corpse Explosion? As you can see, you could practically see nothing, and I have noticed this in bigger events as well. Rod Ferguson says, yep, we're aware, not as simple as a hotfix, so we'll need some time to address. I cannot wait for that to be patched, because it is just like you can't see anything. You can't see the beautiful artwork. Sometimes you're facing like a boss and you can't see anything. So I'm really hoping that they get that fixed in like the next upcoming patch. That sure would be nice. All right, so mentioning patches, we have this one right here. A new patch did go live. You probably missed it. It says fix an issue where Necromancer players would sometimes be stuck at the character selection screen. They also fix an issue where control inputs would stop responding when a player teleports or zones in and out of a dungeon. And they fix a graphical issue where black textures would flash after teleporting into specific towns. So if you've seen these weird oddities, they should be pretty much fixed for the most part. So that's really, really good news. All right, so some more official news right here. Check it out. A big live stream event is coming up from Diablo, the official Diablo, the Unholy Trinity. This is happening June 11th at 4 p.m. PT. Look at the talent they have on this stream. Be sure to tune in. I'm going to definitely be tuning into that one. I love Shang-Chi. Also, we have this post right here. Some really good tips about clearing out those pesky kill all enemies dungeons. So you guys know the type of dungeon. So let's go ahead and read over that one, shall we? It says this right here. PSA. Slay all enemies is easy and fast if you ignore the stragglers. This has 1,700 upvotes, so I think it was really helpful to a lot of people. It says this, counterintuitive, right? If you ignored straggler clearing the den of evil, you were gonna be there all night. But the enemy horde approaches mechanic is actually all those stragglers teleporting to you whenever you hit a big pack, sometimes multiple times per dungeon floor. So, tested it around 10 times now, just blasting past stragglers and only taking a big chunk out of every large pack elite group. Sure enough, once I hit the last big pack in the dungeon, a final horde approaches with all the remaining monsters. Easy cleanup as they're all on the screen counting down to 0. This makes the objective fun and fast, but only if you play it opposite of the way you expect the need to play it. Cool. So there you go. The more you know. Great, easy way to clear those annoying slay all enemies dungeons. And I think it would make it a lot more fun and a lot quicker for you guys to earn that experience and look out for drops. All right, so mentioning drops, check it out. This could actually ruin the game if Blizzard adjusts drops. Right now, I think drops are perfect. But yeah, there are some people that are vocal that are saying like, rare is everything. So let's go to Reddit, shall we? It says, people crying about low drop rates for rare uniques will kill the game. The devs listen to them and buff drop rates for things like Grandfather and Shaco. The D2 aspect about farming for cool items will be destroyed, and people who want to spend more hours in the game will no longer have any incentive to keep playing. There is a reason why Diablo 2 had such longevity. A huge part of it was the fact it had items that were exceedingly rare. Please, it is okay if you as a player do not have every single item in the game handed to you on a platter. So yeah, I agree. I think it just makes it so much immensely more rewarding when that super rare unique finally drops in your possession and it's all yours. And you know that you've worked really hard for this. So yeah, I think that they should not adjust current drop rates. I think it would be an absolute mistake because I think it would also kill the game. Essentially, people would end up being like, this game is no fun. I have everything. I'm going to just quit now. There's a purpose to really playing the end game right now, seeking out those rare items. And there's a sense of camaraderie as well and discussion within the community about those super rare items. And you kind of take that away when you make those rare items not so rare. All right, we got to talk about this discussion right here. It says, why damage buckets exist. This is fascinating. It says, I've been trying to make different builds to the sorcerer, but because how the damage buckets work, all builds are so similar. Now, before I move on, you guys can Google damage buckets, but yeah, the way it works, it's weird. Now, Riker had a very interesting video as well. I think he calls it damage decks now. Check it out. But yeah, it's kind of strange how they have it set up, but I do kind of get where the devs are coming from, but I also understand where this post is coming from. Check it out. It says, all builds must have Frost Nova to have vulnerable damage, and because Frost Nova have low range, you have to go for close damage. Normally, you have to go for Iron Bolt enchantment to access the best passives and damage to burning enemies. On top of that, because you need survivability, you need another 1 or 2 defensive skills. So every build is almost the same with a different main damage spell, but similar concept and playstyle. I want to expand on this. I'm playing Barbarian, of course, and it feels like, yeah, you're forced into using shouts. Like, I saw another post where it just seems like no matter what, you have to use shouts. Don't get me wrong, shouts are cool. I love them. But there's also some really cool combinations, at least in the early side of the game, where you can goof around and have a lot of fun. And then your focus really starts to have to narrow as you hit the end game. You can't experiment as much. It seems like I'm being pulled more and more towards that whirlwind build. We'll see what happens with my character as I keep going. But I'm still enjoying the bleed build. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to see how far I could push this bleed build. So I love it. Now, furthermore, let's keep reading. Now, it says this. To me, these are the main problems. These are the main problems of the damage buckets. It's not intuitive. You need to read guides to know what damage is on what bucket. And if you don't read guides, it's completely hidden from you. It kills diversity because it forces every build into the same things. I don't know on other classes, but in Sorcerer, the only source of vulnerability for shock and fire is Nova, so the skill is locked. It's not favor-oriented. I should be able to build what I feel is a great fantasy, put everything on fire or frost everything, and watch them shatter. But the reality is that buckets push you into diversity. Every build plus 500% fire damage is worse than 150% vulnerable, 150% fire, and 150% close damage by large amount. Now, theory crafting and exploring builds is a big part of why our ARPGs are fun. Every player should be able to make builds without going to an external tool guided by fantasy, not formulas. Can someone explain to me why buckets are good? Maybe I'm missing something. Thank you. And got a reply here. It says, 100% agree on this. It reduces complexity and build variety by a long shot. Basically, if you run solo and don't make enemies vulnerable, your build sucks. Hence, you are forced to use some skills over others. Yeah, I just feel like vulnerable is absolutely one of the go-tos. You have to use it, of course. And a lot of times your build is around something like vulnerable. Now, that doesn't always have to be the case. You know, I have a bleed build, but why wouldn't you have vulnerable on top of bleed? So I get where people are coming from with this. Again, some of the things that I want to see changed with builds is to really support abilities that just would not be used in the end game. It would be used throughout maybe like the early version of the game and then through the mid game, and then you would abandon it in the end game. I think that was kind of the design philosophy, to add variety in how you're playing with one character throughout, like, 50 hours at the beginning so you don't get bored. I get that from Blizzard's side of thing, but I feel like there needs to be some sort of return to form, I suppose you would say, when it comes to being able to use those initial abilities. So check this out right here. This is interesting. This post shows a skill diversity or lack thereof, top SC skill statistics according to D4Armory.io, where a lot of players were able to submit what they were currently using for their build. And if you just look at the Barbarian, you can see how many people are just using like lunging strike over absolutely everything else. And you kind of see my point that you should have builds that are more viable all the way around. You should be able to use every single piece of skill and have a purpose in like an in-game build. I know that's a bit much to ask, but I think it would be really neat if Blizzard worked their way to that down the road. Now, you have to also remember that Blizzard does plan to expand every single class's skill tree post-launch, and also do some interesting things with existing skills. So I'm thinking, maybe they will actually return to form. Maybe they will allow us to return to the things that we aren't using currently and make it fresh again. So kind of curious to see what they do. All right, so we're going to talk about this right here as well. Check it out. It says, would be nice if they implemented this Diablo 3 feature in Diablo 4 as well. And as you can see, when you're enchanting in Diablo 3, it says display possible replacement properties. And people are talking about this. You scroll down here, it says, can't understand why they didn't implement it. It was a great feature in Diablo 3, especially with how high the reroll costs are. Yeah, it kind of perplexes me that they've done this. And I think that this is one of those quality of life adjustments that Diablo 3 had that they need to add into Diablo 4 for sure. All right, so yeah, a lot of you guys are playing Helltide, so I wanted to mention this as well. We have an updated Helltide map with recommended farming zones guide inside. So this is extremely useful, kind of pinpoints areas that you can specifically tackle to really make use of the Helltides in the most efficient, effective way. So check that out in the description below. All right, so now it's time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. Yeah, we're going to start out with my YouTube members. Thank you so much for joining. It's that join button. I always love to highlight your comments, but let's get into those first and foremost. We have this one right here. I tried moving the HUD to the center, but ended up hating it. Seems to work better for me to the left. This one comes from Grativis. Yeah, you know, it's just a personal preference. I love it to the left. For some reason, it's just cleaner looking and super nice. No matter what platform I'm playing on, I'm going to have it to the left. He also says this: hate not knowing when the world boss is spawning. Relies heavily on my clan to tell me. LOL. They need a better way of giving that feedback to the player. Also, remember in my previous video, I did throw in like a Twitter account, which does give you updates on where the world boss is, when they're spawning, and so on and so forth. So definitely check that out and use it if you haven't already. But yeah, my most recent video was this one right here. It says Diablo 4 devs new response about Helltides. Huge leak will change the game, and much more. Let's see what you guys have to say about this one. Curtis goes on to say this: I may have a cool idea for Helltide. Fill of the map with random spawning and located hellgates. All right. Then have the demons coming out of the gate, moving away from the gate in a few different directions. Players then would be searching the area, looking for these streams of enemies going from the gate, and fight their way back to the gate to have a big battle closing the Hellgate. I love it. I think that'd be really cool. Again, they could like expand the Helltides big time and do all sorts of cool stuff. But I love that idea. Now, we have this one right here. I'm okay with the density of nightmare dungeons, but Helltides seriously need to be increased by a lot. So you guys find it to be kind of like a pushover type experience in the Helltides, do you? Be careful what you wish for. So yeah, Blizzard right now officially did say that they're watching the issue, and that's all they want to say about it. They didn't give a confirmation that, hey, we're updating Helltides. But I imagine since you guys are being so vocal, some sort of change will be coming with Helltides. Next up, we have this one. Farting owl, okay. So I kind of wish if they were going to make certain uniques way more rare, why not just give them a different classification? I know it doesn't really matter, but it would be just instantly feel different when you see that drop with a different sound and a different color that just immediately triggers excitement on another level. So one thing that I have done, and this is a tip that the developers also gave recently, is that you can go into your options menu and only have the sound trigger when a certain rarity does appear on your screen. So usually you hear all this sound and the sound really isn't meaningful. I would fine tune that, have the sound only enabled for like super rare weapons. And then once you hear it, you're like, oh, what was that? You know, it makes it more meaningful. So that's one workaround currently for that, but I definitely hear what you're saying. But there it is. Well, actually, let me do one more comment here. Let me scroll down. I notice this one has a lot of upvotes. It says, they need higher density for sure. You spend half the time in a Helltide on your mount looking for packs, and a lot of them are so small, they aren't worth stopping for. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of comments, a lot of support for changes for Helltide. See what happens. Thank you all once again for watching. Stay tuned here for more Diablo 4 news and updates. I have you guys covered, and I will see you all next time. Take care.